People think betrayal always comes dressed in anger or violence. Sometimes it comes smiling. Sometimes it calls itself a joke. 5 years ago, my brother left me at a gas station in the middle of nowhere and laughed about it. I still remember the sound of the automatic door sliding shut behind him, the smell of gasoline thick in the air, and the way my phone buzzed once, then went silent. 1 bar of service, then none. That's when I realized the laughter coming from the car wasn't stopping because he wasn't joking anymore. "Relax," he had said earlier, drumming his fingers on the steering wheel. "You're too sensitive." That was always his favorite line. We were driving back from our aunt's funeral, a 3-hour trip that somehow stretched into 6 because he kept taking wrong turns, stopping for snacks, and making jokes about how inheritance fights were more entertaining than the funeral itself. I sat in the passenger seat, exhausted, grieving, and quiet. That annoyed him more than anything. "Say something," he snapped. "You always go mute when you want attention." I didn't want attention. I wanted peace. When he pulled into that gas station just after midnight, I thought he needed coffee. He told me to go inside and grab water. I didn't argue. I never did. That was the rule in our family. Don't make waves, especially with him. By the time I reached the cooler aisle, I heard tires squeal. I ran outside just in time to see red taillights disappearing into the dark highway like dying embers. At first, I laughed. I actually laughed. Because this was my brother, because our parents raised us to believe family doesn't abandon family, because surely he'd loop back around, right? 10 minutes passed, then 20, then an hour. The cashier locked the doors at 1 a.m. and asked if I had someone coming. I lied and said yes. My phone was dead, my wallet was in the car, my jacket too. The temperature dropped, and so did my faith in everything I thought I knew. By sunrise, I understood something I hadn't allowed myself to think before. He wasn't coming back. When my parents finally answered my borrowed phone call later that morning, my mother sighed like I'd inconvenienced her. "Why do you always make drama?" she asked. My father laughed. "Your brother said you'd be fine. He said it was just a joke." A joke. That word followed me longer than the scars from that night. I took a bus home. I packed my things, and when my brother showed up 3 days later, grinning like he'd won something, no one yelled at him. No one punished him. They told me to forgive him. "Don't tear the family apart," my mother whispered. So I left instead. For 5 years, I disappeared from their lives, changed my number, changed my city, changed who I was allowed to become without their permission. And for 5 years, I promised myself I'd never look back. Until the day I did. Because 5 years later, when I finally stood in front of my family again, my brother stopped smiling. He went pale, and he froze, because he wasn't looking at me anymore. He was staring at who was standing behind me. And in that moment, I realized the joke he played on me didn't just come back to haunt him. It came back with a name, a badge, and a truth that would rip our family apart. The first thing my brother noticed wasn't my face. It was the man standing behind me, tall, calm, unmoving. His posture alone made the room feel smaller, tighter, like the walls were listening. He wore a simple dark jacket, nothing flashy, but there was something unmistakable in the way he stood, like he was used to walking into chaos and controlling it without raising his voice. My brother swallowed hard. I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. "Who's that?" my mother asked, forcing a smile that never reached her eyes. She looked at me like I was a stranger who'd wandered into the wrong house, like I'd violated some unspoken rule by returning without permission. I didn't answer right away, because the truth was, I wanted them to feel what I'd felt for years, the uncertainty, the discomfort, the sense of being off balance. "He's with me," I said, finally. My father cleared his throat. "With you? How?" "5 years ago, I left with nothing but a borrowed coat and a bus ticket. I slept in shelters at first, then on a friend's couch, then in my car. I worked jobs no one in my family would ever admit existed: overnight cleaning, warehouse loading, gas station shifts that smelled exactly like the one where my brother abandoned me. Every night I replayed that joke in my head, the laughter, the taillights, the silence. But anger, when you live with it long enough, either destroys you or sharpens you. I chose the second. I enrolled in night classes, criminal justice at first, then law enforcement training. Not because I wanted power, but because I never wanted to feel powerless again. I learned how systems work, how people lie, how families protect the wrong people and call it love. The man behind me knew that story, every part of it. "This is Officer Daniel Reyes, my partner." That word, partner, hit the room like a dropped plate. My brother laughed nervously. "Partner? Like work partner?" Officer Reyes didn't smile. He simply nodded once, slow and deliberate. "Yes," he said, "and more." My mother's eyes flicked between us. "Why are you here?" she asked me, finally dropping the fake warmth. "If this is about the past, we already said it was a misunderstanding." A misunderstanding. 5 years ago, they called abandonment a misunderstanding. They called my silence drama. They called his cruelty humor. I reached into my bag and pulled out a folded envelope. I didn't come for apologies. I came for closure. My father stood up. "You don't get to walk back in here with a police officer and accuse—" "I'm not accusing anyone. Not yet." That's when my brother's leg started bouncing. The confident grin he'd worn his whole life was gone, replaced by something brittle and scared. "Relax," he said, forcing a laugh. "This is ridiculous. You always overreact." Officer Reyes took one step forward, and my brother flinched. That reaction told me everything, because guilt recognizes authority even before words are spoken. I hadn't come for revenge. I hadn't come for forgiveness. I came back because 5 years ago my family chose his version of the story, and this time I brought proof. But what my family didn't know yet was that the joke at the gas station wasn't the worst thing my brother had done. It was just the first thing he got away with. The silence in the living room grew heavy, the kind that presses against your ears until you feel like screaming just to prove you're still breathing. My brother broke it first. "So, what is this?" he asked, spreading his hands like a performer finishing a bad act. "Some kind of scare tactic? You show up with a cop to make us feel guilty?" Officer Reyes didn't move. He didn't need to. His presence alone did what words couldn't. "I didn't ask him to scare anyone," I said calmly. "I asked him to make sure I wasn't silenced again." My mother scoffed. "Silenced? No one silenced you. You left." I felt something crack in my chest. Not loudly, not dramatically, but enough to remind me why I stayed away for 5 years. "I left because no one listened," I said. "There's a difference." My father rubbed his temples. "We raised you both the same. You're acting like he ruined your life over one stupid prank." One prank. That's how families rewrite history. They take a pattern and shrink it until it fits their comfort. I opened the envelope and laid the contents out on the coffee table. Printed reports, statements, dates, locations. My brother leaned forward, then froze. "What's that?" he asked. "Incidents," I said. "Complaints. Things people reported and then mysteriously dropped." Officer Reyes spoke for the first time since entering the house. "Your son's name came up during an internal review." My mother's face drained of color. "Review of what?" "Workplace misconduct, financial coercion, threats." My brother stood up so fast his chair scraped the floor. "This is insane. You believe them over me?" I looked at my parents. "That's the question, isn't it? Because you never believed me." The memories came rushing back, suddenly sharp, suddenly undeniable. The cousin who stopped visiting after a heated argument with my brother. The neighbor who accused him of vandalizing her car, then withdrew the claim. The ex-girlfriend who cried at family dinners until my mother told her to stop being dramatic. Each time, my family chose the easier explanation. They misunderstood him. Each time, my brother smiled wider. "These aren't accusations," Officer Reyes continued. "They're corroborated patterns." Patterns. That word made my father shift uncomfortably. "This has nothing to do with us. You can't drag family into this." I laughed softly. It surprised even me. "You dragged family into it the night you left me at that gas station. You just didn't expect consequences." My mother's voice trembled. "Why didn't you say something sooner?" I met her eyes. "I did. You told me not to tear the family apart." That landed harder than any document. Officer Reyes gathered the papers slowly. "We're not here to arrest anyone today. We're here because some cases don't stay buried forever." My brother's confidence finally shattered. "You planned this," he said, pointing at me. "You waited 5 years." I shook my head. "No, I healed for 5 years. There's a difference. Because I didn't come back broken. I came back prepared. And for the first time in his life, my brother realized something terrifying. He wasn't protected anymore. But just when I thought the truth was finally catching up to him, my parents made a choice that shocked even me, and it proved where their loyalty had always been.
My mother reached for my brother's arm before anyone else could speak. That small gesture said more than words ever could. "You're not taking him anywhere," she said firmly, standing between him and Officer Reyes. This is our home. Officer Reyes remained calm. Ma'am, no one is being taken anywhere. Not today. Good, my father added quickly. Then this conversation is over. Just like that. 5 years of silence. 5 years of rebuilding myself, reduced to an inconvenience they wanted gone. I felt my hands shake, not with fear, but with a familiar, exhausting grief. You saw the papers, I said. You heard him. Doesn't any of this worry you? My father shook his head. What worries me is you coming back here to stir up trouble. There it was. Not concern, not accountability. Control. My brother smirked behind my mother's shoulder, the old confidence seeping back into his posture. He knew this dance. He'd led it his entire life. She's always been dramatic, he said softly. You know that. My mother nodded. You were sensitive as a child. You still are. Sensitive. That was the word they used to shrink me, to dismiss pain they didn't want to face. Officer Reyes spoke carefully. Ma'am, with respect, minimizing patterns is how harm continues. My mother turned on him. You don't know our family. He met her gaze evenly. I know systems, and I know silence. That hit something deep in her, but not deep enough. We're done here, my father said, opening the front door. If you want a relationship with this family, you'll drop this nonsense. I stared at him. And if I don't? His voice hardened. Then you're choosing to walk away, again. The old guilt rose in my chest, the one they'd planted years ago. The idea that I was always the one abandoning them, no matter how badly they treated me. But this time, something was different. I didn't leave last time, I said quietly. I was pushed. His jaw tightened. But I wasn't. I was just the one who survived it. The room cracked open with that truth. For the first time, doubt crept into my parents' eyes. Not enough to act, but enough to realize they might have been wrong. My brother saw it too, and panic flashed across his face, because the family shield he'd always hidden behind was starting to splinter. And he knew, if it broke completely, there'd be nothing left to protect him. But what none of them expected was the person who would speak up next, and how their words would expose a secret my family had buried for decades. The knock at the door came soft but firm. 3 sharp taps. Every head in the room turned. My father frowned. We're not expecting anyone. Officer Reyes glanced at me. I hadn't told him about this part. Not because I didn't trust him, but because some truths need to arrive on their own. When my mother opened the door, her breath caught. Standing on the porch was my Aunt Lorraine. She hadn't been invited to family gatherings in years, not since the argument, not since she stopped staying quiet. I heard she was back, Aunt Lorraine said, her eyes landing on me. Figured it was time I stopped pretending I didn't. The room stiffened. My brother muttered, "You've got to be kidding me." Aunt Lorraine stepped inside without asking. She looked older than I remembered, lines etched deep by years of restraint and regret. But her back was straight, her eyes steady. I recognize that look, she said, nodding at my brother. It's the same one your uncle had. My mother snapped, "Don't start." "No," Aunt Lorraine replied calmly. "That's what we did wrong before." Silence followed her words, thick and unforgiving. She turned to Officer Reyes. "You should know, this isn't new behavior." My father's voice shook. "Lorraine, you don't know what you're saying." "I know exactly what I'm saying, because I covered for it once, and I won't do it again." My chest tightened. Covered for it. Aunt Lorraine looked at me then, guilt heavy in her eyes. "I believed you back then, but I was told to stay out of it." My mother sank into the couch. "We did what was best for the family." "That's what you called it. I called it fear." She turned to Officer Reyes. "Years ago, I reported something similar. Different victim, same excuses, same silence." My brother exploded. "This is insane. You're all ganging up on me." "No," Aunt Lorraine said quietly. "We're finally telling the truth." My father paced the room. "You don't understand the damage this will do." Aunt Lorraine met his gaze. "I understand exactly what silence does." I felt something inside me break free, something heavy I'd carried since that gas station night. All those years, I thought I was alone. I wasn't. My brother's voice dropped, sharp and desperate. "You don't have proof." Aunt Lorraine pulled a worn envelope from her purse. "I kept copies, because deep down, I knew this day would come." She handed it to Officer Reyes. The sound of paper sliding free felt louder than any shout. My mother covered her mouth. "You said you destroyed those." Aunt Lorraine's voice cracked. "I said what you needed to hear." That was the moment my family fractured. Not with screams, not with violence, but with the truth standing uninvited in the room. My brother backed toward the hallway, his confidence finally gone. For the first time, he looked small, cornered, and scared. I watched him and realized something terrifying and freeing all at once. He hadn't changed. We had just stopped protecting him. But just when I thought the truth would finally set us free, my brother made a move that would change everything. And it proved how far he was willing to go to stay untouchable.
My brother's eyes darted around the room like he was searching for an exit that hadn't existed 5 minutes earlier. I'd seen that look before. 5 years ago, it was on my face, standing alone at a gas station, realizing the person I trusted most had already chosen himself. Now the roles were reversed. "This is ridiculous," he said, forcing a laugh that fooled no one. "I'm not staying here for this." He took a step toward the hallway. Officer Reyes shifted, just slightly. "I wouldn't recommend leaving." My brother snapped. "You can't stop me." "I can ask you to stay," Officer Reyes replied evenly, "and I can document your refusal." That word, document, hit harder than any threat. My mother stood up, frantic. "Please," she begged my brother, "just sit down. Let's talk." Talk. That's all our family ever did when things got uncomfortable. Talk until truth got tired and left. My brother shook his head. "You're all turning on me." Aunt Lorraine folded her arms. "No, we're stepping out of your shadow." My father looked between them, panic etched into his face. "This is getting out of hand." I finally spoke, my voice steady in a way it had never been before. "It got out of hand the night you abandoned me," I said. "Everything after that was just delayed." My brother glared at me. "You planned this. You wanted me humiliated." I shook my head. "I wanted accountability. Humiliation is what happens when lies run out of room." That's when he bolted. It happened fast, too fast for my mother to react. He shoved past her, sprinting toward the back door. Officer Reyes moved immediately. "Stop," he commanded. My brother ignored him. The door flew open, slamming against the wall. Cold air rushed in like a warning. For a split second, I thought he might actually escape, like he always had. But this time, someone was watching. 2 patrol cars pulled into the driveway, lights flashing silently. My brother froze. The color drained from his face. Officer Reyes spoke into his radio, calm and precise. Subject attempting to leave. My brother turned slowly, hands raised, breathing hard. "This is insane," he whispered. "I didn't do anything." Aunt Lorraine's voice broke. "You did enough." My mother collapsed onto the couch, sobbing. My father stared at the floor like it might swallow him. Officer Reyes approached my brother carefully. "You're not under arrest right now," he said, "but you are being escorted for questioning." The word escorted sounded gentle. It wasn't. As they led him out, my brother locked eyes with me. For the first time in his life, there was no smirk, no joke, no family shield, just fear and something else. Regret. The door closed behind him and the house felt emptier, but lighter, like something toxic had finally been removed. I exhaled a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding for 5 years. But I was wrong to think this was the end, because as the sirens faded, my mother turned to me and said something that cut deeper than any betrayal before it. Her words made me realize that losing my brother wasn't the hardest part. It was understanding what my parents were still willing to sacrifice to protect themselves. My mother's words didn't come out angry. That was the worst part. She wiped her face, eyes red and swollen, and looked at me like I was the one who just shattered something precious. "You didn't have to do all this," she said softly. "We could have handled it privately." Privately? I stared at her stunned. After everything, after the reports, after my brother running, after the truth finally breathing fresh air. "You still think this is about embarrassment?" I said. My father finally looked up. His voice was hollow. "You don't understand what you've done to this family." I nodded slowly. "No, I understand exactly what this family did to me." Silence followed. Not the heavy kind, but the defeated kind. The kind that settles when there's nowhere left to hide. Aunt Lorraine stepped beside me. "You're not losing a family," she told me gently. "You're refusing to carry their lies." My mother shook her head. "He's still our son. And I was still your daughter, the night you chose a joke over my safety." That landed. Finally. My father sat down heavily. "What do you want from us?" I thought about that question for a long time. 5 years ago, I wanted an apology. 4 years ago, I wanted validation. 3 years ago, I wanted justice. But standing there now, I realized the truth. "I don't want anything," I said. "That's the difference between us." Officer Reyes touched my arm lightly, a quiet signal that it was time to go. At the door, I paused. "I hope you learn from this," I said, not unkindly, "but whether you do or not, I'm done paying the price for your silence." My mother didn't stop me this time. Outside, the air felt colder, but cleaner, like the world had finally made space for me. In the weeks that followed, the investigation moved forward, slowly, carefully. I won't pretend it was easy. Accountability never is. But for the first time, it wasn't my burden alone. Aunt Lorraine and I stayed in touch. We talked about healing, about how families don't break all at once. They fracture quietly, over years of choosing comfort over truth. As for my parents, they stopped calling, and that hurt. But not as much as I thought it would. Because here's what I learned. Being left at a gas station didn't break me. Being disbelieved didn't end me. And coming back didn't make me weak. It made me free. 5 years ago, my brother thought abandonment was funny. Today, he knows what it feels like to stand alone, without protection, without laughter, without lies to hide behind. And the person standing behind me that day, he wasn't just a badge or a partner. He was proof that I survived, that I grew, and that the joke my family laughed at never belonged to me.